Salvete omnes. This is chapter 35, exercise C. We are parsing these English sentences and translating them into Latin. Sententia prima. The right wing of our army was coming towards the large plain. So we'll start with the right wing. So right, that is an adjective modifying the noun wing, and it's wing of an army. So right is going to be dexter, dextra, dextrum, as opposed to the left, the sinister, sinistra, sinistrum. So dexter, dextra, dextrum must agree with the noun wing of the army in gender, number, and in case. So we'll go to wing of an army, and that is cornu us neuter. Fourth declension neuter. It is the subject of our sentence. The right wing of our army was coming towards the large plain. The verb is was coming. What was? The wing, the cornu. So we want the nominative because it's the subject and singular. Nominative singular neuter, cornu. Well, that's going to make the adjective modifying it, dexter, dextra, dextrum, also nominative singular and neuter to modify it. Now, wing of our army, you could put of our army, but because wing already means wing of an army as well as horn, we can just say our right wing. So have the adjective noster, nostra, nostrum, meaning our, belonging to us, to agree with wing in gender, number, and case. So we get nominative singular neuter for noster, nostra, nostrum as well. So something like dextrum, or something like nostrum cornu dextrum, our right wing, or the right wing of our army, was coming towards the large plain. So this is our verb, was coming. It's third person singular because the army, the wing of the army, it was coming, third person singular. Imperfect tense, it's a continuous habitual action in the past. Active voice and indicative mood. The verb is venio, venire, veni, ventus. So veniebat. It's a fourth conjugation, veniebat. It's coming towards the large plain. Towards is ad plus the accusative of motion. And we are going towards a large plain, large being an adjective, magnus which agrees with plain, campus e masculine. We want campus to be the accusative case because it's working with the preposition ad to show motion towards, and it's one plain, so singular. We want the accusative singular masculine. That means that this adjective, large, magnus must also be accusative singular and masculine. So altogether, we could have something like nostrum et cornu dextrum ad magnum campum veniebat. Optime, secunda, sententia secunda. At midnight, shouts were heard in the middle of the town. So at midnight, when does the action of the verb were heard, when does it take place? When. Ablative of time, when. At what time? Midnight is going to be in the middle of the night. So medius to agree with nox, noctis, feminine. So it's going to be the ablative singular feminine, ablative of time when, media, macron over the final A, nocte, media nocte, in the middle of the night. Shouts were heard. What were heard? The shouts. Shouts, the subject of the sentence. That's clamor, clamoris, masculine. We want the nominative plural masculine because it's the subject of the sentence. So clamores with an es. It's a third declension. Clamores. The shouts were heard. To hear is audio, audire, audivi, auditus. To hear. Shouts were heard. They were heard. Third person plural they. What was heard? The shouts in the plural masculine. So we want the fourth principal part of audio, auditus, make it plural to get auditi, auditi. And then third person plural present of sum is the helping verb. Auditi sunt. Clamores auditi sunt. And when were they heard? Media nocte. Media nocte. And they were heard in the middle of the town. Just like with media nocte, it looks like middle night. Media nocte. In the middle of the town. You don't use the genitive, even though in English we say of something, in the middle of something. The adjective medios aum is just an adjective. It agrees with a noun in gender, number, and case. So if we are in the middle of the town, it will look like in Latin we are saying in the middle town. So in plus the ablative to show location, medios aum to agree with the ablative of oppidum e neuter, which would be oppido. Ablative singular neuter of medios aum will be medio. In medio oppido. And that's where the shouts, the clamores, were heard. Auditi sunt. Media nocte clamores in medio oppido auditi sunt. Tertia, sententia tertia. The cavalry on our left wing are nearer to the camp than to the river. So the cavalry will be the subject of our sentence because our verb is are. The cavalry are nearer. So when we have an are here as a linking verb, we actually have a very simple sentence here. It's just going to be a subject in the nominative and then a predicate. The cavalry are nearer. Nearer is going to be our predicate nominative. So in a sense, it's just going to be cavalry, eques, equitus, masculine, plural in the nominative, equites, are is sunt, third person plural present, and then we want the predicate nominative and plural to agree with the nominative plural masculine cavalry of nearer. Now the rest of the stuff, on our left wing and to the camp, that's just stuff to flavor the sentence. In a sense, it's just a nominative subject, a linking verb, and then a predicate nominative. So the nominative plural cavalry, the equites, the knights, the horsemen, on our left wing, the knights on our left wing. Latin actually favors ablative of separation here to say that the cavalry from our left wing. So instead of saying in sinistro cornu, sinister, sinistra, sinistrum, to agree with cornu us neuter, we want to say a ab plus the ablative of separation. A sinistro cornu. Equites a sinistro cornu, meaning the cavalry from the right wing. I'm sorry, the cavalry from the left wing. They are nearer. They sunt, nearer. Near is going to be prope plus the accusative. It's a preposition. Nearer is the comparative propior, propioris, and the neuter will be propios, propioris. The cavalry being the nominative plural masculine, propiores will be the nominative plural masculine to agree with it. The equites sunt propiores, they are nearer. And if you're nearer to something, that something will be in the dative. It's called dative with adjective. And that dative with the adjective nearer is going to be camp. So camp is going to be in the dative. Casra orum, neuter plural. So casris. Propiores casris. So the equites a sinistro cornu sunt propiores casris than to the river. So we are comparing thing. Let's see, we're comparing the cavalry being nearer to the camp than to the river. So we're comparing the castries to the river. These things are closer. The cavalry are closer than to the river. So if we have thing X, meaning the camp, in the dative, thing Y, the river, also must be dative, and we'll use quam for than. You may not, I repeat, you may not use an ablative of comparison here. The ablative of comparison only works if thing X is either nominative or accusative case. Here, thing X, being the camp, is in the dative case because it's dated with this adjective. Therefore, we must use quam plus the dative of flumen, fluminous, neuter, which is flumini. Altogether, the sentence could say something like, Equites a sinistra cornu nostro, propiores sunt casris quam flumini. Optime. Quarta, sententia quarta. This man is better than the worst people. But shall we call him good? Just because you're better than the worst does not make you a good person. This man, meaning this one, right here, he is better than the worst. So this man right here is. So we have another nominative subject, linking verb, and then a predicate nominative. So this man, hic haikok, you don't need wir, because man being a singular masculine thing, that information is relayed just by the singular masculine ending for hic. So hic being singular masculine, you can already imply man. So hic is est, third person singular present active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. Hic est, he is better. Now better, we have good, bonusaon. Better is melior, meliores, the neuter being melius, meliores, and then the superlative optimus aum is best. So he is better. We want melior. We want the nominative singular masculine of melior, meliores to agree with the nominative singular masculine hic. We have a subject, linking verb, and a predicate nominative. Hic est melior. And he is better than the worst people. All right, comparison, comparative. We are comparing thing X, this man, then thing Y, the worst people. So thing X is in the nominative case. If we use quam for than, we must make thing Y also nominative case. You don't need the noun people. That's really persons. Just take the adjective worst and give it a plural masculine ending. Make it a substantive. Worst is pessimusaon. You have bad or wicked, the positive malusaon. Something is worse, that's peor peoris, and the neuter is peos peoris. And worst, with the T, worst, that's the superlative, is pessimusaon. So if we are using quam, then thing Y must be nominative plural masculine because the subject is nominative. Thing X, quam, thing Y. Nominative, quam, nominative. So pessimi. Hic est melior quam pessimi. Now, because thing X is in the nominative case, you can omit quam and use the ablative of comparison for thing Y. You can say, hic est melior pessimis. That's fine too. But shall we call him good? But shall we call him good? So semicolon, but with one T. God, now that I have your attention, it's said, S-E-D, said, shall we call him good? Said him, shall we call? Shall we name him good, call him good? Appello, appellare, appellavi, appellatus. Shall we? First person plural, we. Future tense, will we, shall we? Active, indicative. And because we're asking a question, you can go ahead and add ne on the end of this. So, said appellabimusne, shall we call him? Who's that him? Well, it's this guy, that man. We're referring to him. Let's use is id to refer back to him. And we want the accusative singular masculine direct object of appellabimus. So eum. Sed appellabimusne eum. And then what are we going to call him? Hopefully you remember that barn. What? Yes, that barn that we painted red. Oh no, not the barn that's painted red. Yes, the barn that's painted red. So if I, the subject, paint, verb, a barn, barn is the direct object. Subject, verb, direct object. I paint the barn. If I paint the red barn, I am the subject, paint is the verb, red is an adjective modifying the direct object, barn, and that would be in the accusative case. But if I paint the barn red, I am making the direct object, the barn, into something else, something that is red. Red is still an adjective, but it's not an adjective modifying the direct object. Now it is acting as a predicate accusative because you're making something into something else. So I painted the barn red. Red would be a predicate accusative because it's the predicate to an accusative direct object, barn. Shall we call him good? Shall we call him, the accusative direct object, eum, good? Good is also going to be accusative, but it's going to be a predicate accusative. It's almost like we're making him good. We're calling him good. We're calling the direct object a predicate, which needs to be in the accusative because the direct object is in the accusative. So bonosaum in the accusative, masculine singular, is bonum. Altogether, the sentence could read something like, hic est melior quam pessimi, or hic est melior pessimis. Sed appellabimusne eum bonum? Optime, quinta, sententia quinta. The teacher is very eager for more books. So the teacher is magister, magistri masculine. There is also the feminine magistra I feminine. Est is another linking verb. So we have a subject, teacher. We have a linking verb, and then we have a predicate nominative, very eager. Not just eager, which would be cupidus, but not eager, not more eager, or rather eager, cupidior, cupidioris, cupidius, cupidioris, but very eager, the superlative cupidissimus aum. So we have a subject, a linking verb, and a predicate nominative, cupidissimus aum. So magister est cupidissimus, or female teacher, magistra est cupidissima. And if you're eager for something, that looks very dative-y, the preposition for. It actually takes the genitive. Cupidus aum takes an objective genitive as the object of what you're desirous of or what you're eager of. So cupidissimus or cupidissima plus the genitive of more books. So books and more. Books being plural. More, we want the comparative plural, which is plures, plura. We want it in the genitive, which will be plurium. And then we have books. Liber, libri, masculine. We want the genitive plural of that as well. So librorum. Plurium librorum. Magister est cupidissimus plurium librorum, very desirous of more books. Or if you have a female teacher, you could say magistra est cupidissima plurium librorum. Sexta, sententia sexta. Very many citizens were not able to flee when the town was taken. Oh, so sad. So the verb is were not able. Who were not able? The very many citizens. They were not able. So the verb will be third person plural. Very many is the superlative of multi-I-a, which is the positive. That's many. The comparative is plures plura, more in the plural. And then the superlative is plurimi-I-a, very many. Needs to agree in gender, number, and case with citizens. Citizens being civis, common, C for common. You could also write masculine/feminine. So it could be either one. So nominative, plural, masculine, or feminine. We're going to go with the masculine. So very many plurimi cives, both nominative, both plural, both masculine. They were not able to flee. So able, that's going to be possum. It's negated by the adverb known. And then were able, so they were not able. Third person plural, imperfect, active, indicative of possum, posse, potui. Remember, possum is slightly irregular. We want erant and then pot in front of it to get the imperfect. Poterant. Non poterant. Plurimi cives non poterant. And then able to do something, to infinitive. Possum screams out for a complementary infinitive to complement or complete its meaning. So we want the present active infinitive, fugio, fugere, fugi, fugitus. We want fugere. Fugere. Non poterant fugere. They were not able to flee. When the town was taken. When is ubi, temporal conjunction, introducing us to a temporal clause, a time clause. Temporal clauses usually live in the front of the sentence in Latin. So we'll say plurimi cives, and then we'll kick us into the temporal clause. We could also start with the temporal clause, ubi, and then go on with the rest of the sentence. So when has its own subject, the town, oppidum e neuter. So inside this clause, this temporal clause, the subject is town, nominative singular neuter. The town was taken. Capio, capere, capi, captus. Was taken, third person singular, perfect passive indicative, and because it's agreeing with the oppidum, the town that was taken, it needs to be singular and neuter. Oppidum coptum est. Oppidum est coptum. Yes, you can invert the fourth principal part and its helping verb like that. Est coptum is the same as coptum est. So altogether, we could say something like, ubi oppidum est coptum, plurimi cives fugere non poterant. Optime, septima, sententia septima. From the top of the mountain, we can look at the sea across the plains. That sounds so lovely. So from the top of the mountain, just like with the middle of the town, medios aum, it's an adjective that agrees with a noun. Top of something is summus aum, and though it has an of in it, it does not take the genitive. It's an adjective. It agrees with a noun in gender, number, and case. So summus aum must agree with mons, montis in gender, number, and case. So we want from, ab, plus the ablative, from. We want the ablative and singular and masculine of summus aum and mons, montis masculine. A summo monte. A summo monte. From the top mountain. That's what it looks like. From the summit mountain. It's from the top of the mountain. The summit of the mountain. We can look. That is the same as saying we are able to look. So our main verb is going to be possum. Subject we. First person plural. We are able to look right now in the present time, present tense. So first person plural, present active indicative of possum, posse, potui. We have sumus, and then POT in front of it is potsumus. And because the T assimilates to an S, possumus. We can look. We are able to look. Possumus, which screams out for a complementary infinitive to complement or complete its meaning, to look, which is going to be specta, spectare, spectavi, spectatus, to look at. So we want the present active infinitive spectare. Possumus spectare. We can look. We are able to look. From the top of the mountain, a sumo monte, we're able to look at the direct object, which is going to be the accusative see. Remember, it's an I stem, but that doesn't really matter here. Mare, maris, neuter, see. Because it's neuter, it's a third declension neuter, the accusative will be the same as the nominative. So mare. We're going to look at the sea. Possumus, spectare, mare, possumus. I don't like spectare, mare. I don't like that at all. We'll do something so we don't get that rhymingness. Across the plains. Across is going to be trans, and it will take the accusative case. So we want the accusative of campus, e masculine, and it's going to be plural, so trans campos. Altogether, it's something like a sumo monte, mare trans campos, spectare possumus. Octava, sententia octava. In that town we shall find more horses and more grain. Excellent sentence for practicing more of something, because it has both more of something plural and more of something singular. So in that town, we are located in that town. That's where we, the subject we, are. We are in plus the ablative of location. That is going to be, you can either use issea, id, or ille, illa, illud. I did not specify. It could either be in eo oppido or in illo oppido. We shall find. We shall find is first person plural, future tense of invenio, invenire, inveni, inventus. So we shall find, inveniemus, inveniemus. And what shall we find? Some direct objects. We shall find more horses and more grain. Okay, you want more horses. Horses is in the plural. So that's going to be equus e masculine and the accusative, direct object of the verb find. So equus. Now more, you have two different mores. You have singular more, based off of multus a that's the noun plus plurus neuter. And it takes a partitive genitive. Now, if you have something in the plural, you're going to use more plural, which is based off of the plural multi-ia, and that's the adjective plures plura. Because we want more horses in the plural, more is going to be plures plura. And we want the accusative plural masculine like the accusative plural masculine equus, so plures equus. In illo oppido, plures equos inveniemus. Okay, we shall find more horses, but we shall also find more grain, and it's just going to be et. More grain. Now, grain is singular. Grain is singular. You cannot use the plural, plures plura, with this singular grain. You have to use the singular more, which is the noun plus plurus neuter. But you can't just stick the noun plus right next to the noun frumentum and say, well, that's it, pack it up, we're done. You can't say metro card in Latin. You have to say card of metro. You can't say doghouse in Latin. You have to say house of dog. You're going to have to say more of grain. You can't just say more grain, more of grain. Grain you're going to have to put in the genitive to make it partitive genitive. You want more of it. Now more, because it's a noun, that's going to be your accusative direct object. Because plus is neuter, the accusative is also going to be plus. And it's going to take a partitive genitive. Plus frumenti. Plus frumenti. So altogether, in illo oppido plures equos et plus frumenti inveniemus. Nona. Sententia nona. Which is the oldest of your three sons? Which is the eldest? Which is the oldest? Superlative being the oldest. We have three sons. One's going to be older than the other one, but one is going to be the oldest. So which one? Which one is the same as who? Who is the oldest of your three sons? And that's just going to be quis. The nominative singular masculine quis. Is, linking verb, we have a subject, and then we're going to have a predicate nominative. Quis est, third person singular, present active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. And then how do you say oldest, the eldest in Latin? Well, don't take the superlative of senex senis. That's bad. What you want to do is you want to take the superlative of magnus, which is maximus aum, and then you want it to work off of the ablative of natus, which is natu. You want maximus natu. That natu is technically an ablative of specification. This person is maximus, greatest, in what way? In respect to natu, birth, which equals oldest. Quis est maximus natu? So natu should always be ablative, N-A-T-U. It's one of your vocab words. Quis est maximus natu of your three, out of your three sons, partitive genitive, which one, which is the oldest? So three sons is going to be genitive, plural, partitive genitive. Your three sons. Tuos aum. Three is tres tria. And then filius, filii, masculine. So tuorum, trium, filiorum. Quis est maximus natu tuorum, trium, filiorum? And finally, decima. Near the bridge, which is next to the town, the river is very deep. So near the bridge, we are near the bridge. That is the preposition prope plus the accusative case. We want prope pons pontis masculine, prope pontem. The bridge which is next to the town, which is next. So relative clause, which is next to the town. It is introduced by the relative pronoun which. The antecedent of which is bridge. Which must agree with bridge in gender and number, not necessarily in case. So near the bridge. Bridge is going to be accusative because of the preposition prope, but which is next to the town. That which right there is going to be the subject inside the clause. It's the subject of the verb is. We have a subject and the nominative is next to. Next to is going to be the superlative of prope, and then the comparative is propior, the superlative being proximus. So prope pontem, qui est proximus, which is next, and it takes a dative, next to something, next to the oppidum e neuter town, the dative being oppido, proximus oppido, next to the town, nearest to the town. The river is very deep. So near the bridge, the river is very deep is our main sentence. It's interrupted by the relative clause, giving us more information about the bridge. This is why relative clauses are called adjectival clauses. They act like adjectives. The river is very deep. So the river is the flumen, fluminous, neuter. It's the subject of the sentence. The main sentence being near the bridge, the river is very deep. Its verb is. It's got the same verb inside the relative clause too. But the subject of this is, the main verb is river. Flumen est, very deep. That is the superlative of altus aum, tall, high, or deep. The comparative would be altior, altioris, the neuter altius, altioris. and the superlative being altissimosaum, because river is singular neuter. The adjective, which is a predicate nominative, must be nominative and singular and masculine. Altissimum. Altogether, prope pontem qui proximus est opido, flumen est altissimum. Optime. Very well done. That wraps it up for chapter 35. You are now ready to move on to chapter 36. Valete omnes.